Hi guys, it's Tuesday and we're going to be starting Act 2 of Romeo and Juliet today. I am coming to you from my basement, which is where my kids have been spending a lot of their time when they're done with their own e-learning. There's been a lot of fort making down here. They have the Nintendo Switch. They've been getting way too much screen time, but what can you do? So that's where I am. And if you could turn to page 49 in your Romeo and Juliet book, I have mine right here. We will get started. As I said yesterday in Google Classroom, there's a lot we don't know right now, not necessarily just about Romeo and Juliet, but about the coming weeks. And I'm still waiting for more information too. So hang in there. You guys have been handling this all so well. And when the school, the administrators, and teachers have more information, it will be shared to you. But I'll tell you right now, I don't have like secret information. I don't know either. So what we'll do is we'll just focus on Act 2 of Romeo and Juliet. So on page 49, Act 2 starts with another sonnet, kind of like a little trailer. And remember that the prologue that we had started the whole play like that, and then we have that again. So, it's still early on in the play. Act 2 represents really like the rising action. Things start happening. We've had Romeo and Juliet meet in Act 1, and now they're going to talk and make some very quick plans in Act 2. Okay, so enter chorus. So someone from the acting group would come on stage. Now old desire doth in his deathbed lie, and young affection gapes to be his heir. That fair for which love groaned for and would die with tender Juliet matched is now not fair. So the prologue, this sonnet is saying that Romeo was feeling such love for that other girl, Rosaline, but now that's wiped away from his mind, and now it's Juliet, right? Just like that. Now Romeo is beloved and loves again, alike bewitched by the charm of looks. So we do get a hint here that, one of the reasons that this is different for Romeo is because Juliet isn't trying to tell him, oh, I'm going to become a nun. She is right away responding to him, and they have like that flow of back and forth. Like literally when they spoke to each other, it was like poetry. Just there wasn't a moment where it's like, I'm sorry, what did you say? It just clicked. But to his foe supposed he must complain, and she steal love's sweet bait from fearful hooks. Being held a foe, he may not have access to breathe such vows as lovers used to swear. And she, as much in love, her means much less to meet her new beloved anywhere. So there's an element of danger described in their new love. We have the word foe because, of course, the two families are enemies. And then we have this image of like Juliet coming to like a trap with bait, and she's, Romeo would be like that worm on the hook, and she's coming and has to get off the worm without being, hooked or like hurt. So there's an element of danger already introduced into their love. And we have here, when it says her means much less to meet her new beloved anywhere, Juliet is a young woman from like a high standing family. She would be allowed to go to church. Like really, that's pretty much it. And the nurse, her caregiver, is with her all the time. So, women at that time, Juliet wouldn't have the same ability to like walk around with her friends like Romeo does, being a young man. So it's going to be even more difficult for Juliet to get to Romeo, just with the fact that she's a young girl or like a young woman. Well, girl. She's going to turn 14 in 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, she's like a preteen. But passion lends them power. Time means to meet, tempering extremities with extreme sweet. So their dangers are eased with extreme sweet, like with the reward of when they do finally see each other. Okay, so now Act 2, Scene 1, outside Capulet's mansion. Romeo enters alone. Can I go forward when my heart is here? Turn back, dull earth, and find thy center out. So they're still on the grounds of the Capulet mansion, like the party has just broken up, and Romeo is saying, my heart is here, meaning, that metaphor is Juliet. Juliet is my heart, and she's still here. I can't go. So he hides, and he's ditching his friends. His friends don't know that Juliet has captured his eye and that he, has smooched her and all that. Enter Benvolio with Mercutio. Romeo, my cousin, Romeo. He is wise, and on my life hath stolen him home to bed. So he thinks like he must have already gone off to bed. Sorry, having some morning coffee. He ran this way and leapt this orchard wall. Call, good Mercutio. Nay, I'll conjure too. And Mercutio is such a jokester. He's teasing Romeo, they're bros, and he's pretending to be like a wizard, and conjuring, like he has this big cauldron, and he's going to throw in these things, and he's making Benvolio laugh. He's teasing about Romeo. Mercutio is just a jokester, this big personality. Nay, I'll conjure too. Romeo, humors, madness, passion, lover, appear thou in the likeness of a sigh. Speak, but one rhyme, and I am satisfied. Cry, but I me. Pronounce but love and dove. Speak to my gossip Venus one fair word. One nickname for her purblind son and heir. Young Abraham Cupid, he that shot so trim when King Copta loved the beggar maid. He heareth not, he stirreth not, he moveth not. The ape is dead, and I must conjure him. You can look on the left if you'd like to follow along with Mercutio's sexual puns and dirty jokes and things like that. I'm not going to actually point them out to you, but if you want, you have the left side of your page and you can take a look. I conjure thee by Rosaline's bright eyes, by her high forehead and her scarlet lip, by her fine foot, straight leg, and quivering thigh, and the demnesses that there adjacent lie, that in thy likeness thou appear to us. And if he hear thee, thou wilt anger him. This cannot anger him. 'Twould anger him to raise a spirit in his mistress's circle, of some strange nature, letting it there stand till she had laid it and conjured it down. That were some spite. My invocation is fair and honest. In his mistress's name I conjure only but to raise him up. Come, he hath hid himself among these trees, to be consorted with the humorous night. Blind is his love, and best befits the dark. If love be blind, love cannot hit the mark. Now, will he sit under a medlar tree and wish his mistress were that kind of fruit as maids call medlars when they laugh alone? Oh, Romeo, that she were! Oh, that she were an open ass, thou a poprin pear! Romeo, good night! I'll to my truckle bed. This field bed is too cold for me to sleep. Come, shall we go? Go then, for 'tis in vain to seek him here that means not to be found. And they exit. So, Act 2, Scene 2, this is like right after that scene. There's no stopping or like changing. Romeo comes out after his friends have left. He jests at scars that never felt a wound. And then he kind of walks up, and Juliet is outside of her room. We're kind of like in their, well, it says Capulet's orchard, kind of like their backyard, but it's like this beautiful kind of castle mansion place. And Juliet is on a balcony, and she's just, staring into space, thinking. And Romeo is on the ground, and he does not automatically let her know that he's there. And so Romeo sees her, but she doesn't know that he's there. Kind of a creeper. Yeah, but totally on brand for Romeo. So, all right. So, but soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. So pay attention to the language that Romeo used. We had him use the language of religion when they first met, and that's definitely going to continue. And there is quite a lot of use of light and dark imagery. And he right away is saying Juliet is the sun. And if you think about that metaphor, if we were in class, I'd go up to the board and I'd have you brainstorm for me the associations that we have with the sun. It's necessary for life. It is, I know someone in the class would say, like, it's hot, like, Juliet is hot. And yes, but then there's more to, the sun is everything. It comes up, the day starts, the world starts, it brings life, it brings all of that. So when Juliet is compared to the sun, all of those associations for Romeo come with it in that moment. And you also get that, feel of the height difference that the setting would be at, like the scene setting. So it would, really bring that home. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. So we have personification here, that the moon is jealous of Juliet, who is being compared to the sun, because, the sun is so much more beautiful. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. Juliet appears, like she comes out a little bit more. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. He still is talking, and she cannot hear him, okay? She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Now, think about, how do we speak but say nothing? I see some hands up. Not really. But, if we were in the classroom, probably you guys would be saying facial expressions, gestures, body language, right? So she is, even though she's not verbally saying words, she is communicating so much just by those things that Romeo is seeing. Her eyes discourses. So like her eyes are speaking. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. Here her eyes are being compared to stars. Like the stars needed her eyes to take their place, so they're the stars. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. Like her eyes are so bright that if they were taking the place of stars, that it would trick the animals in the world into thinking it was day. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. So here he wishes that he was a glove on her hand. So because she's like up, sitting like this on the balcony, so he could just touch her cheek. Now, don't try to use that as like a pickup line. Don't tell someone like, oh, I wish I was your mitten so then I could be holding your hand. It's in 2020. It just doesn't feel right. Feels weird. Juliet says, me. And Romeo says, she speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel. So be paying attention and circling as we continue that language of light and brightness that is used to describe Juliet. For thou art as glorious to this night, being over my head as is a winged messenger of heaven onto the white upturned wandering eyes of mortals that fall back to gaze on him, when he bestrides the lazy puffing clouds and sails upon the bosom of the air. Okay, so Juliet is going to be talking, and she does not know that Romeo's down there. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? So that's one of the famous lines from Romeo and Juliet. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? And a lot of times people mistake that for like she's looking for Romeo, like, where are you, Romeo? Where are you? But what she's saying really is, oh, Romeo, Romeo, why are you Romeo? Like, why do you have to be Romeo Montague? Like, this label of a name of all the people, you have to be Romeo Montague. Why couldn't you be like Romeo Smith? Like, still yourself inside, because your name is not the ultimate part of you. So that's like a common misconception. I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to tell you a funny story that I would tell you if we were in the classroom. And this was, so I had a cat named Romeo. He passed away after like a really long life, 2 years ago. And anyway, I was living in the city. This was like a long time ago, and probably 15 years ago. Okay. And the window in the bathroom was up a little bit, and I never even thought that he would do this, but he made an escape, and we were in like the middle of the city at our apartment, and he made an escape. And when we realized he was gone, I mean, I was so upset. My husband refers to it as like one of the worst days of his life because I was so upset. So we made like posters with Romeo's picture and like information, and went around the neighborhood, and I would go up to people and be like, have you seen my cat Romeo? And I'm like crying. And my mom lives in the city as well. And so she came over and she went to look around the alley. And I know that sounds so bad, like we let my mom look around the alley, but in Chicago, alleys are really, common. They're not necessarily like scary places. So anyway, she goes back there and she's looking for Romeo. And she's like a well-dressed, kind of slightly older woman, but like really put together. And she's out in the alley and she's going, Romeo, Romeo. And this weird guy, possibly, like a homeless man, popped up from behind a dumpster and is like, hey lady, I'll be your Romeo. And she was like, and we laughed about that so much. And whenever we get to this part in the play, I always think of that. And Romeo was found. He had not gone far. He was just like he probably had some adventures, and then he came back and he was like hiding, and then our neighbor below us called to tell us, I think your cat is hiding in this like nook of my door. But another funny part was we had put my husband's phone number on there so people could call if they saw a cat. And after Romeo had been back with us that night for like an hour, and, we had fed him, cleaned him up, all of that, Bill gets a phone call, and this woman is like, hello, I have good news. And Bill's like, oh, okay, hi. And she goes, I have Romeo. And Bill's like, oh, no, he's home. And she's like, oh, no, I have Romeo. He's right here in front of me. I'm feeding him some tuna. I found him. I have him. He's safe. And Bill's like, oh, no, truly, like, we have Romeo home. He's right here. I'm not sure what cat you have. And she goes, well, who is this? Like, the cat was trying to just get a free meal or something, like a freeloader. So that always makes me laugh too. Okay, so back to this. Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn, my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. So she says, go against your dad, say that's not your name, or if you can't, just be sworn, my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. So it's all about names. Like, that seems to be, that's what's holding them apart. Or like, I know they just met like 5 minutes ago, but that's the conflict in continuing this relationship. Romeo says, shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this? Now, probably what would most of us do if the person that you're crushing on is talking about you, you're probably going to eavesdrop a little bit longer. 'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. What's a Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. So she's saying, like, a name is not that important. If we called a rose a garbage can, if that's what it was originally named, it wouldn't change what a rose smells like or looks like. It's just a label. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for thy name which is no part of thee, take all myself. What are you doing? You want to say hi? We have a special guest. That's a really crazy sound.
Where's the background?
I didn't do a background today. Can you say bye?
No.
What?
I'm going to stay.
Okay, but I'm going to close out the video for today. All right. We will continue with Act 2 tomorrow. Miss you guys. Bye.